Screw your freedom.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Well, we're getting a good dose of the truth now, aren't we? Well, yes, we are. Is it going to be World War III or is it going to be the Cold War 2.0? Well, Russia now has laid out its new doctrine, its new self-defense, national security, military doctrine. It's codified. It's 55 pages, and it identifies the United States government as its main threat. Right? Russia now has 55 pages outlining their new strategy to deal with global threats. Well, Russia says the U.S. dominance at sea is their highest risk and priority. Where does that leave us? Where does that put us? Right? When we look at what has transpired, well, over the past year, and then over the past 30 years, we get quite a look at what the thinking is in Moscow. Now, in the last year, the United States and NATO, including the European Union and UK, right, they have pushed Russia into this new war mentality. Moscow will likely continue creating and deploying new technologies like their Poseidon torpedo, which is autonomous and can be nuclear tipped and can be deployed from great distances. Also, their new hypersonic missile systems and defense systems have proven to be both effective and far less expensive than what the U.S. has spent for its national defense. Economically speaking, Russia is small compared to the United States' military budget. Yet they've managed to spend their money where it's most effective, making them a great risk and threat that the U.S. has to consider. Now, this Cold War, and I'm calling it that because we don't have open hostilities between, and by hostilities, I mean military action, between NATO and the United States and Russia, but they're fighting their proxy war. They're fighting a proxy war, right? This Cold War, because at this point, that's where we're at. It will not break Russia's budget or economy the way the Soviet Union was broken and ultimately failed. Putin probably won't be lured into that trap. Though they have this, I mean, it's incredible when I reread this, that they have a 15,000 mile long coastline along its northern edge, along the Arctic Sea. That's a lot that they have to defend and patrol, right? Big country, big borders. I don't think they're going to take the example that Biden has set and ignore a border. The details, by the way, the details of their pronouns and how Russian military identifies sexually were not detailed in the 55-page doctrine. I guess Putin, Moscow, and the Kremlin have decided that they're just going to stick with traditional details when it comes to that. And I'm sure the pansies in the Pentagon would be outraged as they discover only two genders and traditional white-cultured pronouns for the Russian military. Yeah, sarcasm. Now, Putin has decried the unipolar world dominance of the United States government, saying its time has ended. And Putin stated that a couple of weeks ago. And he stated that Russia and other nations will seek more beneficial alliances. Hence we have the BRIC nations. Those were the first 4 or 5 nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Those nations created an economic alliance, a cross-border payment system, military agreements, all without United States government blessings. And this BRICS union, if you will, international agreement system, is expanded to include countries in the Middle East, other OPEC nations, because Russia is part of OPEC plus, oil producing, exporting nations. Now, in addition to Russia considering the U.S. Its number one threat, NATO expansion, NATO being the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a military treaty organization for Europe and the United States. NATO expansion to Russia's western borders has made them a massive threat to Russia. And that is what was used and prompted this invasion into Ukraine, this special military exercise. Russian military installations have been directed to assess the threats and respond according to this doctrine now, this doctrine of self-defense for Russia, treating what Putin has called unfriendly nations at risk, right? Prompting economic policy of reducing and eliminating gas, oil, and other resources to these nations. So this Cold War that was basically instigated by US government and NATO, European Union, and UK aggression, or threats, if you will, has created this situation, right? Putin's Russia has endured insult and sanctions repeatedly and unendingly since the Soviet Union collapsed 30 years ago. In America, we just no longer had the Soviet Union to worry about. I don't think most Americans really paid attention to how the Russians were being treated, right? But Russia has developed its economy under these conditions, being sanctioned and ignored. It's maintained, folks, the lowest GDP to debt ratio on the planet, especially for being such a large nation, demonstrating that they can live within their means. They have sound economic policies, unlike the United States government and the European Union governments. Right? Recent sanctions now against Russia have not crippled it. And to the contrary, it has encouraged their diplomatic and economic expansion by working with other nations that have punished or exploited, that have been punished or exploited by the European Union and US government. Right? Large nations like Brazil, India, Saudi Arabia, and China have found relations with Russia to be very beneficial, creating an adversarial economic bloc that is extremely powerful. And it's creating new alliances and causing other nations to look closely to who they want to do business with, right? Russia's new defense, or its war doctrine, isn't really new, but it's now codified, written down to likely reflect long-term practices and strategies for Russia and its allies. The mistake could be, folks, the mistake that could be made is continuing to underestimate Russia and to threaten them further with military drills and exercises. For now, NATO and US warships have ceased Black Sea exercises, which are close to Russia's Crimean Peninsula. And that shows some good judgment by the West for now. But for, I think, the rest of us, right, the world is a very, shall we say, unsure place. And I think it's best that we prepare accordingly, intelligently, and see what is going on, right? You can't be prepared if you don't look with clear eyes at what is being done. And that's really what we try to do here. Yeah, we like to have a little bit of fun. Yeah, we like to cover all topics. But this is a big one, folks. It's a very big one with, shall we say, conflict heating up in the Kosovo-Serbia border region. That's a problem. That involves Russian mentality, Russian interests. Same with Syria. Same with Iran. And folks, same with Taiwan and China. Not that China and Russia are the closest of allies, but they're certainly a lot closer today than they have been in times past. Once again, this alliance between China and Russia being increased due to the pressures that have been brought to bear on Russia and also China. Right? I remember being told by my dear mother that you'll get a lot further, right, with sugar than salt, right? deals are sweeter. So threats, they're a problem, right? Looking at China, Pelosi has said now she will visit Taiwan. So does China lose face over this, or do they stand up and do what they said they're going to do and shoot down American craft? War can start like that. Was it really critical for Nancy to go to Taiwan? No. But once she opened her yap, it created that scenario whereby the tensions and threats escalated. And here we are. Folks, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Godspeed. God bless America. And Semper Fi. I'll see you guys very soon, and we'll talk about what's happening. I'll answer your questions, and we'll have some fun with it, and also make sure we're on top of this so that we can be prepared both in our homes and in our heads. Godspeed.